Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I interview the great Veena Jetti, the queen of multifamily properties. I'm excited to have her on our show. I met her at the RPM conference back in April, and I was happy to interview her this past spring. I hope you enjoy the episode. We talk everything from college, kids, and of course, multifamily. Enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. Of course, Dr. B here. I'm here with the great Veena Jetti. Veena, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've been wanting to get you on for the show for a while, and I'm glad I got you on. So let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
So tell everyone about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Veena Jetti. I'm the founder of a company called Vive Funds. We're large multifamily owner-operators. I'm very happy to say that we're soon to cross $1 billion in transaction volume of assets bought and sold, which feels like a goal I have been chasing for so long, and we're finally getting there. I also run the free Facebook community Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti, where I do a lot of mentorship and education, because the next level for me is really impact and helping someone else do what I did. And so that's what I'm passionate about right now.
I love it. I love it. I'm so congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that in a minute. No,
yes.
Anytime. So I'm very big on education. As you can see, I have my little eagle wall behind me here.
Oh, no. I only have one diploma. My mom, she says, I store it safely. And I'm like, oh, where is it? She's like, it's under my bed.
What?
Yeah,
I have mine hung. I think my mom still has my kindergarten one though somewhere.
I love it. I love it.
So I'm very big on education. As you can see, you went to University of Illinois, got your Bachelor of Science at Finance. How did that experience help you in what you're doing today, if at all?
Quite frankly, I don't think the finance part of my degree really did anything for today. There were certain things that I think gave me a foundation, but I don't think I necessarily, with the access you have to information today and the access you have to, I'll call it alternative education, right? Non-traditional sources like masterminds and networking and courses. I don't necessarily think you have to get this specific education at a school. You can go to YouTube and find a lot of this information. So what is a P&L? You can Google that. You don't need to go to a university and pay a bunch of money to get that. Now, with that, I am a big proponent of college. And part of it is, I am Indian. So I think it's in my blood to be no, you still have to go to college, right? But also what I got out of it was the best 4 years of my life. It was so much fun because it's a time where you are an adult, but you don't quite have the full responsibility of being a true adult yet. And so it's almost that transitionary period where you make, I'm still friends with people I went to college with. I still talk to them. I still see them when we're in the same city. We still maintain a network from them. So I think college is really more about the soft skills. It's about learning how to balance going out with your friends till 3 a.m. and having to be up for that 8 a.m. class, right? It's balancing your time, learning how to go and do all the things that you want to do that you have no parents telling you can't, you have no curfew or anything like that. But then also having the responsibility of completing assignments and group projects. And it also gives you the independence of learning how to ask for help when you need it. Because no one holds your hand in college the way they did maybe in elementary school or junior high or high school, right? Now I don't understand this thing. I'm facing an issue. What are the resources that I can turn to for help? Is it going to office hours? Is it joining a study group? Is it finding a tutor? Is it finding my TA? All of those things are things you don't really know until you're in college and have the opportunity to experience it. But it was a great experience for me.
Absolutely. And that's the argument now in education now, right?
Yeah.
You can take the catch-22, right? All right. So are you spending all this money, all the student loans, and what's the ROI, right? And I agree with you. Now you could do the mastermind, you could YouTube University, some of the stuff, not all, some, or hire a mentor, hire a coach, and really get you from point A to point Z will be,
Yeah. And, it's funny you say that because I get asked this question all the time because so many people that are in my space are like, college is garbage. Don't go to college. It's a big waste of time and money. And I get that. I really do. I understand why they think that. And it's funny because even for my own kids, so my husband's a physician. He's they have to go to college, period. And they can be, they can do business, which is a big deviation from the typical Indian mentality of medicine or engineering, right? Now he's okay, they can do business, they can do law. That's all fine, right? And we'll accept it. And I'm honey, what if they start a really successful business in high school? What if they're worth a couple $1 million by the time they go to college or they're college age, right? Like, why would I want them to arbitrarily go backward and regress versus going and being great and building something and learning from mentors and being in the right room? So my husband and I, even both being Indian, we have like these very different outlooks on the future of education. So I would say to anybody considering college, if you're going to college, go for a degree that will actually produce asymmetric or has the ability to produce asymmetric returns for you, right?
Get an ROI, right? They'll get something that's like abstract that's very unclear as far as like, hey, you do this.
Exactly. Like, I don't think underwater basket weaving is probably a degree that I would want my kids to spend 100 or 200 grand to get. Right. But if they want to be like AI engineers, sure. They want to be robot designers. Yeah. Okay. I can, I'm on board with those things, but just be intentional about what you're choosing to do and why you're choosing to do it.
Love it. So I didn't bring you on to discuss just that, right? I wanted to, but I love it. That's the beauty about having my podcast. It goes, you never know where it goes, right? So
never know, especially with me. I'm full of.
I love it. So you started in your real estate journey. I looked at your LinkedIn almost 20 years ago, started as a director of property management. How'd you actually stumble into that or get into that?
Well, I come from a real estate family. So I started before I could even like walk or talk, right? Like my mom was a very successful real estate investor. I graduated from college with my degree in finance. And I went and I worked for, my mom was like, come work for the family business. I was like, no, I have a degree and I'm an adult now. And so I went and worked for some of the largest corporations in the world. And I ultimately left a multi-billion-dollar real estate company in 2012 to start investing for myself. And my parents are immigrants. So they're first generation here. We're second generation here. And I left and started investing for myself. I did not join the family business, actually. I ended up starting one for myself, a company for myself. It was definitely nerve-wracking to say the least, because I didn't know, but I had a really good board of advisors with my mom being built in, right? And that's how I really started investing for myself. And I left corporate America in 2012. So it's been almost 11 years now. It's crazy to say.
I know, but you started in 2011. You started when you was one.
When I was 1 year old, I started.
Exactly. I love it. So, you started working back in 2012, helping folks now investors get double-digit returns through real estate vehicles. How did that all come about? Was it like your mentorship, or how did you just think about it? Shower? How did you think about it?
Yeah. So what's crazy is I never paid for a mastermind or networking or anything. I've never paid for it. And, if people ask me what my biggest regret is, and that's easily one of my biggest regrets, because I didn't realize the power and the value behind those doors. And I've now earned my way into those rooms. So now I know, and it's easy for me to say this. So it's possible to do it without it, but it took me over a decade to get here. And so the way I started this was I started investing for ourselves. Like my husband and I would just invest our own money. And then I'd start getting friends of ours that would be like, oh, can you teach me how to do this on the weekends? And I'd be like, no, orthopedic surgeon, I work 100 hours a week. This is not a part-time gig for me. I can't teach you how to do this on the weekend. So then the conversation turned to, hey, can you just, every time you write $100,000 check, I'll write $100,000 check, and then we'll double what we buy together instead. And I was like, oh, is that allowed? Like, that doesn't feel like we're allowed to do that. So then I called Nick, who's my securities attorney. I was like, hey, I was friends with him before. And I was like, have you like heard of this? Is this a thing? And he's like, oh yeah. And then he starts like telling me about like all these exemptions and like Reg D and accredited investors and unaccredited investors. And I'm like, you knew about this the whole time that we've been friends and you've literally not said anything to me?
Anything to you, ever.
You are a bad friend, Nicholas. So yeah, Nick McGrew, my attorney, is really the one he spoke at the conference that we were at recently. He's really the one who leveled up my knowledge and my game And he continues to do that.
I love it. I love it. Which pivots into my next question. So it's, how do you pronounce the name of your Vive funds, right?
Vive. I know everyone.
Sorry, it's a Spanish in me.
You don't know. Everybody wants it to be like fancy and exotic, and I'm like, no, it's just Vive. But some people, my dad says Vive, and I'm like, Dad, this is named after both of your only granddaughters. It's just Vive.
So just Vive funds. Yes. How did that come about? And I know you're a multifamily expert. Is there a reason why you picked that niche as opposed to some of the other strategies?
Well, just because it's the best. That's the only it. But no, listen, multifamily gives you the residential aspect, but also operates at the scale of commercial, which I really like. And in downturn economies, people still need a place to live. My family invested in residential real estate, but never at the commercial scale until I started doing that. So for me, it was far more important to mix both the things that I loved and be tax efficient, scalable, de-risked. And that's what I love about multifamily. Did you ask me how I got the name?
Yeah, but everything. How did that come about? The whole thing.
Yeah, okay. So the name is Vive, Vive. And it's actually the first two letters of both of them. I have twin daughters. It's the first two letters of each of their names. And I put them together. It's super creative, I know. And it's funny because I actually put out a building your brand workshop. And it's like all this information. And it's basically like a checklist and like action items of how to start a company. And it has a whole section with like 10 videos on choosing a name, making sure the name's available, all of these things. And in it, one of the things I talk about, one of the lessons I talk about is exactly what just transpired here is I did not go out and crowdsource how people would pronounce VIVE. And in my mind, I came up with the name. So it was really easy for me to look and go, obviously, this is Vive Funds. There's no other way to pronounce it. But then I rolled it out and like it started getting traction. I started getting investors. And then I realized, oh my gosh, so many people are calling it like Vive, Viva. And I'm like, oh, I did not do enough research on this. And so it was too late at that point for me to walk it back and change it. But, even my JV partner, one of her highest level employees still says Vive all the time. My dad says that. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are like so entrenched in my business. I can't say it. So, it's important to think about those things when you're branding. And that's just unsolicited advice.
Absolutely. Right. I got it.
Vive. Rhymes with five.
Vive. I love it. So when you're looking at a deal, but besides cap rates, return on investment, cash on cash, exit strategy, what other things should you look for, especially as a newer investor? So besides those ratios.
Yeah. So before I even look at deal specific, as a passive investor myself, before I look at deal specifics, what I look at is I want to look at the sponsor. I want to know what their track record is. I want to know what their integrity is. I want to know how they're going to treat me after I close a deal. I want to know, do other investors have good experiences with them, right? Like I love seeing a testimonial because it's a very sensitive subject to get a testimonial on. And if I see a testimonial, I know that their investors probably really like working with them. And I want that experience too. So I look to that first. I also look for, do you cut corners anywhere? Like, are you going to give me a PPM? Right? That's an important document. A lot of sponsors will skip this. Do not invest with someone who's going to skip a PPM. It's the lowest hanging fruit to protect both you as the investor and the sponsor, right? Me as a sponsor. So I look for that because if you're willing to cut corners here, where else are you cutting corners, right? So I look for that. I look for, do I like working with you? Am I going to like talking to you for the next 5 to 7 years that I'm invested with you? Those are all things that I think are way more important than any metric, any projection, anything that they're going to put on paper in terms of the investment.
I agree. The team that the person's surrounded with and the track record, or if not, I'm going to ask you a question, right? If it's a newer person, if they're mentored by someone, would you consider that or at least look into that?
I would. Depending on who it is, I would definitely look at who is their advisory committee or their advisory board. Because here's the thing, you need to start somewhere, right? And so if partnership is absolutely the key to success in this game. I started with partners. I still partner, Ellie Perlman from Blue Lake Capital. She's my partner. She's amazing. one of the smartest women I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And when we partner together, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. It's like pouring rocket fuel on a fire, and we make each other better. And so when you look to both of our resumes, we have independent resumes of each other that are pretty substantial, but she started with partners too. That was how she started. I think I was one of her first partners when she started. And so having those partners is absolutely crucial, whether it's in an advisory capacity, a mentorship capacity, whatever it is. You're working with Amy Majori. I know Amy really well. I know what she teaches. I've taught a lot of her students before. I've had the pleasure of speaking on her stages. So I know when someone who's in Amy's program is coming to me, I already know what she's saying and I know what she's teaching. She works with Nick. She works with the same securities attorney that I do. So I know that there's a certain amount of legitimacy that's being taught and practiced behind that paywall. And that gives me a lot of comfort as an investor.
No, 100%. Amy, shout out to Amy.
Yeah, shout out to Amy. She's the best.
She's the best. She spoke about it as well during her conference. How important is it? And you highlighted just now the importance of having that power team, that attorney, the CPA, and et cetera.
That's probably one of the most important things you can do when you're starting out and you have no track record, because you need to rely on somebody else's expertise and somebody else's mentorship in order to fill in the knowledge gaps that you are inevitably going to have. You are going to run into problems and issues and things that you have never faced before on every deal you do. And without experience, you don't know how to navigate those. You need a network of people that have either helped someone else navigate it or know how to navigate it themselves. So community for me is everything. It's why I built the Facebook community that we have, because I wanted it to be a place. There's no other community like this. No other multifamily sponsor has a community that they pour knowledge and education into. And, I do it for free in my group. If you're the first 100 people on my Zoom calls, you can come for free. And I intentionally do that. And people tell me all the time, they're like, oh, but you could charge hundreds or thousands of dollars for these calls. And I'm like, I know, because it took me over a decade to gather this information, to source it, and to kiss all the frogs till I got to the prince, right? And to give you guys access to my network. And the whole reason that I did that and I do this for free is because it's really important to me. And I truly believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. And so when there are better sponsors around me, it's better for everybody. What's that saying? I don't know if it's like iron sharpens iron or lead sharpens lead or steel sharpens steel, but something sharpens something else.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens. I'm so bad at these. I'm like so bad at these. You should never ask me for these like proverbs and colloquialisms because I'll mix them up. So iron sharpens iron is what we decided it is. Okay.
Yes,
but that's how it is, right? So like when I'm better and I can give you better information, you have a different experience than I do. You're going to think of something that maybe I haven't thought of, and then you're going to make me better in turn. And it's an exchange of value in that way.
I love it. And you kind of already alluded to my next question as far as why'd you start the community, and it was right.
Well, look, I think that with AI especially, that is going to take over. It's already started taking over. We've already implemented AI. We've been implementing AI for almost 3 years in our business now. We're continuing to ramp up how much and how we use AI. What you cannot replace with AI is the human experience and the human connection. And that's what community is about. And I'll tell you, my mentor in this space is the king of community, Pace Morby himself. He has poured so much into me. And the space that he's created with Sub2 is the most phenomenal community ever. And I want to emulate that. And I have the utmost gratitude to him for pouring into me how to make the community that we're building in Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti better and how to get it to that next level. And he's really the one that was like, give everything away for free. And I was like, but Pace, that literally goes against what every single person has said. And he and I recorded a 2-day masterclass in Dallas. We brought in like 25, 30 people in person, recorded it, edited it, put it into our platform. And you can actually go in my Facebook group and you can get it for free. And it's just 2 days of all multifamily content. And I was like, wow, so we're just going to give this away. We're not going to try to recoup, because it was like $50,000 to produce. And he was like, no, because what we're going to do is we are going to elevate everybody around us, and they're going to get so good. Eventually, they're going to want to come and work with us, hopefully partner with us. I'm like, I love this so much. I love this so much. And so he's really the one that is the mastermind behind how to truly build that sense of community and belonging and acceptance. And what I love about it so much is now I see community members that it used to take me being in town or me being at a conference for them to get together. And I now see them hanging out with each other and like tagging me on those. And I'm like, oh, I love this. This is what a community is.
It is. And I could attest, I'm part of the group, and yeah,
I love it.
A lot of community, 100%.
Yes.
Love it.
That's the main focus. Like, it's not even the multifamily stuff. That stuff's easy. That, I can teach you about NOI. I can teach you about value add. All that's easy. What I can't teach you is how to be empathetic. I can't teach you how to care about other people, how to help other people, how to lead with value, right? Like, those are the things that is what a community is made up of. And I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, every single person you need to do a complete deal and be successful is in that group. And I want to keep growing it so that there's more people that can share in the success.
Absolutely. Last question before we get into wrap up. So what advice would you give any new investors looking to get into real estate, more specifically raising private money?
First and foremost, you have to do it the right way. There are rules you have to follow. If you're not following Nick, the lawyer, that's Nick, my securities attorney. He does a lot of educational content I think he does it both on TikTok and Instagram, but on his Instagram, it's really good. It's NIC, the lawyer. He does a lot of really great.
I follow him too, and he's going to be in my show at some point down the line.
You should. I'll make an intro for you.
Yeah.
But he's great at teaching and explaining what you can and can't do. I also I bring him into my vault calls a lot in the group. He's active. He answers questions there. So your securities attorney should be someone that you absolutely have on your team. You also need your tax strategist, which for me, the person that I think is hands down the best in this business is Larry D. West III from PB Strategies. He's also in the group. He's active in there. So, joining there, I bring him onto my calls sometimes too. So I think it'd be really great for anybody starting out to start building that power team, connect with people. That way, when you're connecting with people, you're creating those potential partnerships. Tell people, I am really good at raising capital. What is your strength? And find the person that says acquisitions or operations as their strength so that you guys can collaborate with each other and partner with each other.
I love it. Our time's almost done. I can't believe they were almost 30 minutes. And
so fast.
Time flies when having fun, right?
It really does.
Where can people find more information about you or even looking to partner with you?
Yeah. Well, my Facebook group, obviously. You can go to my Facebook group, Mastering Multifamily with Veena, Jetti. Join the community, just answer the questions. It's free to join. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the places. I'm just Veena Jetti, VEENAJETTI. And if you want to invest passively, you can go to Vive Funds, VIVEFUNDS.com or VeenaJetti.com to find all this information.
That's Vive, not Vive.
Yeah, Vive, Vive, depending who you're asking.
Whatever floats.
Depends who you're asking.
Just kidding, Vive. Veena Jetti, everybody. Thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Veena Jetti, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Veena Jetti, the queen of multifamily properties. And it was an amazing episode. I was so happy to interview her, so happy to have met her back at the RPM conference back in April. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.